What's going on? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Talk.
Attack on Production.
What's going on? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack on Productions. Today, I bankrupt you once again by Jake, Jimmy, and Nick.
What's going on, yo?
Man, fuck y'all.
I'm here too.
As we kind of just talk about stuff and just do what we want to do. It's been about a good, solid 2 weeks before we did one of these videos, and before that, we took a 2-week break, so that was fun. Coming up this week, we have a Set 2 Vegito versus Son Gohan, the 3 energy one. We have Veku Gogeta versus Blue Beerus, and then we have Villainous versus Blue Majin Buu. And we also recorded Battle of Extra Cards, so we have Extra Card Green Broly versus Extra Card Red Broly as well, that we got recorded before our tournament as well. Yeah, so what you guys been up to?
Nothing.
Nothing. Jimmy, you just came back from an event, I thought.
No.
Okay.
I don't want to admit where I was.
No, kicks
Like-
pedal.
It's like when a politician gets like caught at a drag show or something after denying drag. You know what I'm talking about?
like the movie The Birdcage.
Yeah, sure.
My
I
brother in
haven't seen
Christ,
that
you
movie.
wanted to go.
The guy wanted to go to the drag show too. He just, don't want to admit it once he got there.
Actually, we should go to a drag show. They look like
That
fun.
would be fun, actually.
Yeah, let's go.
That would be
We'll
pretty
do.
wild.
That'll be after the Attack on Fishing trip.
We
Yeah.
gotta we got a full year. We gotta make a calendar.
Yeah.
On drag show.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
Maybe not call it that, considering what's been going on lately.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, you get the wrong people behind us.
Yeah, or
Hey, a view's a view, okay? Like,
I don't know about that one.
I mean,
anyway, how was the regional, man? What happened? Who'd you go with?
What kind of
food
regional?
did you get after?
Hey,
That's
Jake,
always one of the most
important
important things.
the important question is, what card game was it?
yeah. So it was not the TCG Con Houston Dragon Ball Regional. It was the Yu-Gi-Oh regional qualifier, I think it was, at TTD through the decades in Louisville. Massive card store, absolutely dope. Like that was probably like the highlight for me, was just getting to like go in there, and it's just like this giant room of just cards and card players.
If I recall correctly, one half is all the sports cards, and the other half is all the TCG cards.
Yeah, and then they have like a section in the back that have like video games and like some toys and stuff like that, like really dope stuff. But then they don't carry Dragon Ball, but they do carry Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, and Magic, which is the big three.
Safe bets if you're a
Yeah.
store.
And even if you're not into those games, it's really cool just to walk down the display cases, like especially like I love like vintage Magic cards. I don't have a big collection, but just being able to go and just look at them is really dope.
Yeah, I think we have a text group where we just like send each other like vintage Magic and like new cool stuff where that we see.
Right.
Like hearing you describe the store, like you were like, we should make a trip out there, and I was like, dude, I'm totally down. Like it sounds awesome.
Like it was super dope, and like seeing so many people play card games there. Like it was a Yu-Gi-Oh original, so it was like 99% Yu-Gi-Oh players, but there was people playing board games. There was a Commander tournament going on. Like it was really dope.
They
and, like, it
tend
was
to
a lot of
do
fun.
that a lot, from what I
Yeah.
recall, because we used to because they used to do Dragon Ball up there, and me and Fluff go up there all the time before we came to our current store, and they would have the back 2 tables closest to the back wall be just Dragon Ball. Then like the next 4 rows of tables is like Yu-Gi-Oh, and then the front like 3 tables was like Magic, I think.
Oh yeah, they definitely have the room for it too. It is a
Smart.
massive place.
Yeah.
Like it is a really dope place. And if you're into card games in any way and you can make the trip out there, it is 100% worth it. But I have some good friends that play Yu-Gi-Oh, and mentioned in I don't know if it was mentioned in some form of content. I think it was. There's a possibility that I might be doing a little bit of traveling this summer. So
Yeah, it was one of
uh,
these.
yeah. So I've been kind of dabbling into Yu-Gi-Oh because it's a little easier to find Yu-Gi-Oh locals than it is Dragon Ball. Um, and I played my first ever game of Advance Tuesday of this week that this video is coming out, and then went to my first regional on the Saturday. Um, I woke up at 3 a.m. to get ready to go because shout out to Brandon, the old man of the group. Was very pushy on we wanted to get there on time, and we ended up having like an hour and a half once we got there, just sitting around for the damn tournament to start, and the tournament started late. So,
Oh my god. That sounds like Gen Con though, where you
yeah,
got to get up at 3 or 4 in the morning to make the trek.
Yeah, you rolled up at the
yeah,
shop at like almost 6 a.m. I'm like, the hell are you doing here?
yeah.
Yeah.
So spoiler on that front. We did end up dropping a little early out of the tournament. Um, but yeah, shout out to Brandon. We killed with Brandon, but it was a fun group. We had a fun time going up there. To answer Jake's question, the food that's the most important thing when you're going to an event like this. Uh, we did stop at McDonald's.
Okay.
They just straight up canceled mine and Brandon's order, and we sat there forever waiting for it. Um, and
You guys were
eventually,
still early to the event.
yeah, and shout out to the hero Brandon. We were kind of like ducking our heads because we thought he was about to go up there and Karen them, but he was very polite with asking where the order was. Um, but our food was great, as great as McDonald's food could be.
Yeah.
Um, I played Danger Dark Worlds at the event, which I've had a absolute blast with that deck. I'm a big fan of cryptids, and the danger archetype is all cryptids, which is super dope. So you got Danger Mothman, Bigfoot, Tsushinoko, Ogopogo. Like they're super dope
Ogo
cards.
Pogo, that's an obscure one.
Yeah, dude, it's really dope. Like I love it. Like it's such a cool archetype. It is a little RNG based because you are making your opponent pick cards for you to discard, which your opponent can just snipe the card you don't want out of your hand, which makes the deck really bricky. But when it goes off hard. Um,
They're always
I,
fun to play, even if they're not the most consistent.
yeah. I know. The my matchups, if this is going to make sense to anybody, and I'm trying to remember them. My first matchup was Crystal Beast Rebellion. Deck is crazy. That was a really, really cool matchup. Round two tier limits, it's kind of the tier one deck in Yu-Gi-Oh right now, even tier zero, if you want to say that. I don't know how many tier limits were in top, but I'm pretty sure it was almost all of them. Round three was Cyber Dragon. My round four was Branded. Um, that matchup sucked. After that matchup, I was kind of defeated, and the rest of my group was ready to go. So I ended up dropping from the tournament. But shout out to Chase. He did the best out of all of us. He went 3-3. There were 8 rounds. He did end up dropping as well because everybody else was just ready and he had a headache and was ready to go home. We still had a lot of fun though, and we made it back in time for Dragon Ball locals.
Which none of you all
Hooray.
play. You just played Yu-Gi-Oh in the back
Yeah,
room.
I was planning on a Gen Con like experience where we don't make it back until like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, which would be too late to show up to Dragon Ball locals. But we ended up leaving in time to make it almost directly on time for Dragon Ball. So I didn't bring my Dragon Ball deck with me, but it was just fun to hang out and see everybody, especially since I don't get to see the homies, but like usually like once or twice a week.
Yeah.
Um,
Shifting back to Dragon Ball real quick. We talked about Coomer when all that shit dropped the first time, but I love what they're doing for Yellow so far, and I'm really enjoying next set Power Absorbed right now. I love the themes of the deck. I'm just hoping that they all play well, and it's not just gonna be like one or two decks that just is the best, and the other ones are just mediocre fun.
I don't have a lot of thoughts on the boo stuff that's been revealed. As for like the rest of the yellow, I think the deck can probably be one of those things that houses just a good yellow card dot deck. Uh, I think the Spirit Bomb stuff is a little sacky in some ways. Like it can be really powerful, but also can like just brick out on you a lot like my Yu-Gi-Oh deck. So maybe I should be playing this because I really like my deck.
My only
So
problem with this with the Spirit Bomb deck is the cards you're putting underneath the Spirit Bomb card are just random cards, and I can't find anywhere on here where it's specified. Because it says it's your turn. Son Goku leaders in battle. 7 more cards under this card. Use all the battle cards under this card and combo with their skills negate it. The problem with that though is that you could pull extra cards, or you could pull like a secret rare. You could pull
Or
things.
unison,
Yeah, or if you're playing unison, you can play. This deck doesn't have its signature unison. So if you add its unison to the deck, that's your call on that one. But still, like it's not an important card. So you may end up, even though you have 7 cards, maybe only 3 or 4 of them are going to be battle cards. Now we did get which I liked. There was a couple of I'm in the wrong page. Like the Majin Buu, I think he is a counterplay, so he's a battle card, so he still counts for both. Like the idea of having a card that's a counterplay, or I don't remember if there was a negate that was there, but we have obviously the Mecha Freezes and stuff like that, which would work for both purposes. But I think the deck all together just felt kind of like mid. Like it has a cool concept, but like Jimmy said, yellow dot deck pretty much.
I think the best way to utilize Spirit Bomb will be with that Hercule Z card. Like at the end of your turn, after you've attacked with everything, I'm pretty sure it's like you choose cards in rest mode and put them under a Spirit Bomb, right?
No, you tap the card and other cards to place cards underneath the Spirit Bomb. For each battle card, you switch to rest mode by this skill other than this card. So you have to at least switch another card in order to put cards underneath there.
Yeah, so even that's not really as good as I thought it would be. Yeah, I guess the only way to really play this deck is for all the Spirit Bomb stuff to be secondary and you have a win condition elsewhere. The Majin Buu stuff, I feel like there's a lot of hype for right now. A lot of the cards seem pretty singularly powerful, just text on card.
The H
But I feel like, yeah.
I'll say the H drop's just 1 energy for a double strike 30k, and it has deflect.
Yeah. We were talking about this earlier, Nick and I and our buddy Matt. Currently, I feel like it's really difficult to end the game with a battle card that doesn't have the word barrier printed on it. And granted, this Boo can gain barrier if it's played through the other way. And I think that is actually, it makes for a pretty decent boss monster at that point, considering its other effects. But, I don't think that Boo is powerful enough to be a staple card in every yellow deck. I think the best place for this card, and the reason I say that is because you have to be at 4 or more energy to utilize that effect. And at that point in the game, all of your opponent's best defenses are going to be online. So it's just going to be like, I really just think you play this in control decks and play it as a cheap boss late.
Yeah.
That's really all you do with it.
What's great about it, if you were to play it using the engine itself, it can tap down 2 of your opponent's energy, which I think is really strong. Because it just specifies choose up to 2 of your opponent's cards, switch them to rest mode. They can't be switched to active mode during your opponent's next charge phase. So you can lock down 2 energy, and then it's a dual attack, double strike with barrier.
So you choose the cards and switch them to rest mode?
Yeah, you choose 2 of your opponent's two of your opponent's cards and switch them to rest mode.
So you could ostensibly lock an opponent's leader down with this, even if they'd attacked you last turn, right? So it's because it's like the complete as much as possible wording, right? So yeah, I think these kind of cards, the best thing to do is lock down an energy and the opponent's leader to limit how many cards they can draw during their next turn.
Before switching over to something else, I wanted to also mention, I'm not sure what people's thoughts are for the Spirit Bomb. We did talk about it a moment ago. but I think Android 18 might be the best unison for that one, or anything that allows you kind of like
Stack your deck.
rearrange the top cards. That way you know what you're putting underneath your Spirit Bomb before you activate effects.
One of my
Yeah.
fears for the Spirit Bomb deck is what do you run the Spirit Bomb field at? Because of it,
It pulls automatically,
because
right?
yeah, on the back side of the leader.
Yeah.
So you have time to draw cards, and if you happen
Oh
to draw
no!
into your Spirit Bomb, you cannot play it from the deck, or if it gets lifed away.
Oh, this
So
deck is dead on arrival.
Yeah, so it's
That
activated up
is
to once.
unplayable.
Yeah,
It's
I think running a 2 of is fine.
I think 2 of is what you want to shoot for.
Yeah.
But I do agree because it does say activate it from your deck, shuffle your deck, and then you get the skill for the game.
Yeah.
Well, if you do draw into it, there's always the SSB Vegeta Z battle card. Put it back into the deck.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
with that card existing, it's not 100% dead. But
True.
yeah, if this came out like 2 sets ago, then I would agree. But
yeah, you certainly have ways of putting it back into the deck, but I think of how many resources you're going to have to put into just putting that back. The value that you're going to get off of it is going to diminish greatly every turn that card is not on field, and you want it to be there as
Yeah.
quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And it's scary that in decks like Trio Spaceship or any deck that grabs a field card on play or a Unison is that it does it when the leader is placed before any cards go into separate areas. Uh, and even in running at a 2 of, you do have the chance, it's unlikely, uh, but just lifing away both of those cards. And now, if you're playing your entire strategy around that single idea, you are now just dead. Like, you just cannot play your deck. Uh, so that's why I think that the deck will probably be best played into just good yellow cards.
Yeah.
And then have that, as said, as a secondary option that if you do get the lucky and you're able to put it off of the effect, because it doesn't negate the skill for game. Because I don't think it says if you do play it. I think it's just you just activate one from the deck and then negate the skill.
Yeah. And negate the
Yeah,
skill for the game is the
And
very last part of it.
And it's complete as much as possible. Yeah. So if you can't, then the skill is gone, which is also really rough. Just big oversights on design with this card, honestly. I think it's cool or it's flavorful that Spirit Bomb only activates when you awaken, but from a competitive standpoint, the risk of lifing, you life so many cards in this game, you life more cards than copies you could run of any one card. And basically, the first copy of Spirit Bomb you have access to could be when you take your 5th damage for the game and go down to 3 life. And at that point, like, because that's a possibility, this deck will never see competitive play. And it's just a few crappy wording choices and mistakes when designing it, trying to design it for flavor instead of playability that led it to this fate.
Yeah. For the fact that it's also its auto is when a card's placed underneath the Spirit Bomb, you could do a set effect. If you can't maximize that Spirit Bomb, putting a card underneath it, you're losing half of this looter's abilities pretty much. The thing I wanted to the thing I guess they could have fixed it would be something like on the front side, like because every leader has like a permanent, like when this leader goes into the leader spot, add one, like add it to your hand, and then when you awaken, you bottom deck it. You have to reveal it in your hand and bottom deck it. That way, it's in your deck for your or just play. I mean, like what I think there was a leader beforehand that, or there's a card that says because like the Bardock Crew stuff incorporates every area on its auto or on its awakening condition, and I felt like there's another card that could play any card from almost any area. I don't remember what deck it was or what card it may have been.
Like I think it could have been easy if they didn't want the card to be active on turn 1. They could just say on the backside, the 20k Vegito side, at the start of when this card is placed in your leader area, send 1 Spirit Bomb to your warp, and then the backside is play the Spirit Bomb
From your warp. Yeah.
That is a easy way to take out this chance. I feel like for the value that the card raw gives you, including even the big double strike on the Z leader, there is not enough game ending or game warping value on the Spirit Bomb to warrant it being the possibility of it being so was the word
And if there was blue
inconsistent.
decks, yeah, and if there was blue decks would just splash green for tactical victory Vegeta and roll over it.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like if it
Tactical
was
victory, tactical victory has to target a 2 or less, I think.
Oh yeah. I think it has a
Yeah,
special
but-
cost.
Or a 3 or
the-
less, one of the two.
there are multiple ways in this game to remove field spells, one of them being in blue already. So if two of them being in blue actually. So if this deck were ever to become so powerful that other decks needed to consider it, there are silver bullets, which Bandai has mostly removed, already in existence that just crush it. Like those other cards even get around barrier. So even if you printed this where it's live on turn 1 and has barrier, it's still not a great deck for competitive because it's heavily relying on that field.
I mean, there's still the possibility that you just run the card out of 4 of, and you just deal with it when you draw it. You know, you use the
You row them.
you use the Z battle card to put it back into the deck, and value of some sort. You can bottom deck it with Krillin super combos.
What's the hard cast cost of it?
7.
7.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Also, I
So
realized
if you don't get the proc on your leader for whatever reason, you're not activating Spirit
No.
Bomb that game.
and I realized the leader real quick,
Release from Evil exists.
the 4 Z energy leader to 1 you get from the stack 1 effect. All its effects are when you have 7 or more cards in your combo area. So yeah, if you're going for a game and you're trying to use the Spirit Bomb as kind of like an extra push for that combo power, you may not have it either.
Yeah.
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 I just feel like there's a lot to this deck that could have been like, I don't want to say like amazing, because obviously there's a level of balance there, but could have been better.
Yes, this could have been a very playable deck had one card been designed better, and Spirit Bomb is the biggest offender.
I guarantee there will be a viable build of this deck that runs minimal extra cards and unisons. It is a heavy battle card base. It will run 4 of the field so that you pretty much guarantee yourself hitting them unless you are the unluckiest person on the planet, which it does happen. It's an RNG, it's a card game, you're shuffling cards, it can happen. There will be a build of this deck that is viable and will be consistent. But I don't think that's what a lot of people really want to play.
Well, if we want to talk about it, I can actually make the deck for next weekend, guys.
Yeah, you should do that.
Print out the proxies and we'll try it out,
Yeah.
man. I mean, Jimmy, I gotta say that I will. I don't really want to bet because I've already almost bet my hair today, but
What?
yeah, long story. But I would wager that if I was willing to wager my hair, I would wager that a Spirit Bomb deck will not win a Rusty Scabbard local, let alone a regional, let alone top at an event. I don't think it'll win a locals in our meta. Not even like a hype meta, like where all the pro players play.
Yeah, because it also looks like Majin Buu.
Statement.
Well, it also looks like Majin.
I'm saying it. I'm a yellow player. I'm a yellow player. You can still cheat.
I mean, it does look like also, in my opinion, that Majin Buu is going to be a better yellow deck than Spirit Bomb. I feel like it has a lot of tapping ability.
We're gonna look real fucking stupid when there's a Majin Buu card that gets announced that's like place a spirit bomb under this card and kill your opponent instantly or some shit like that. We're gonna feel real fucking stupid when there's a Majin Buu card that works with the spirit bomb archetype and it just utilizes the field card in some way.
I can't
Well,
lose in this situation because if I'm wrong, there's a good yellow deck.
one of the things that I think in the back of my mind I'm kind of worried about is if the Spirit Bomb deck's going to get a promo that just cracks it open.
What would
Something
that
that
promo
fits-
have to say on it? In your guys' opinion to make this competitive?
It could be a card that cycles, like activate main, put this card underneath your Spirit Bomb, draw one card. Just allows you to trade out resources that way you're not RNGing the top card of your deck. Because there's no cards in the archetype that I saw that just straight up says, hey, put this under Spirit Bomb. So I think having a card that you can actually control what you put underneath there will help out a lot.
And before there might be any questions or speculations in the comments, removing a Z leader off the top of your regular leader does not make that a new instance of the card. It is still the same card and will not reset that activate main. Which
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah,
Z Awakening and then trying to activate Spirit
Yeah,
Bomb again,
Z-
that won't work.
Z Awakening and then activating to play the Spirit Bomb from the deck, that will not work. That is a hard once per game.
That's good to know. Okay, yeah, because was that confirmed anywhere, or is that just in the rules? I just want to have a little clarification on that.
I mean, that is in the rule book. I can find where that would specifically be, or like the ruling that would make that appropriate. But it has been ruled. If you are part of the Bandai organized play Discord chat, I believe there was some talk about it in either one of the chats or just one of the ruling question threads.
If I can find it, I'll put it on the screen.
Yeah, definitely do. And if I get some time, I will find the direct like rulebook text for it.
Speaking of rulings, I played Veku Gogeta this past weekend, and I had to double check with Jimmy right before the fight first. I'm like, it's from Battlefield, right? the 8 drops activate main, put the 6-drop Gogeta into the Z energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was actually a really fun deck. It reminded me a lot of Gotenks, actually. So
Yeah, it's a cool deck. It's got some fantastic cards in it. It's just it's one of those decks where you have to run a lot of fluff. Shout out that guy. Don't know who he is. There's a lot of fluff to the deck to get to like the real meat of it.
yeah, like, and also like none of the cards really have a form of protection, and a lot of cards in today's, that are being played. Gosh, they're running around a lot. Have placed here or move here, and like cards like even the 6-drop Gogeta, when it's like it cannot be KO'd, there's still ways of getting around that so easily in today's format that I feel like the deck is like the one wrong red deck and it's completely destroyed pretty much.
Yeah, Nick and I were kind of talking about this earlier, where I feel like a lot of the archetypes, I said sets, and he walked me back. I feel like a lot of the archetypes recently feel really uninspired, almost like Bandai's kind of turning in their homework 5 minutes before it's due. Like, everything is technically here, but you could have done so much better if you started last week instead of first period.
And I think that's why I like Power Absorb so far. Like, I just love the themes of the deck. I love the interactions the deck can do. Gosh. Kids upstairs. But like we talked about earlier, like, is the RNG gonna be good enough for you to play one of these yellow decks? And
Right.
at the time of recording this, we've only seen the leader of the Majin Buu deck and the 2 cards they revealed on Saturday.
Yeah, I just feel like Veku could have been better. Like the Android 13 stuff could have been better. The trio of Saiyans could have been better.
13 was actually really good. The problem with 13 was that it was so overshadowed by Sin and Gogeta. Actually,
True.
Like, in my opinion, Android 13 was a far better deck than the trio of Saiyans. The trio of Saiyans definitely got a good overall red cards for any red Saiyan deck. but the interaction of what Android 13's deck could do, I felt like did better than the trio of Saiyans did.
Yeah.
But when
I
you
don't,
have
I don't know, man. Like,
when you have previous stuff that overshadows that, it doesn't matter. Like we still saw Gojitas and
Yeah,
and Shinrons everywhere when it came to Red, and nothing from this stuff.
I think that's the problem with it too. Is since Gogeta and Sin were just so much more powerful. It's the same thing that happened with like Dark Broly and Gogeta Xeno.
Yeah.
Like those decks were just so good for the longest time. Like nothing that Bandai could make almost could compete with it. So they had to ban or limit those cards. So we're still seeing that wave where everything those decks were still so good that like it really did warp metas. Like
yeah.
everything like can we beat this? Can we interact with this? Can we do something with this? And most of the time that was no. And even
Yeah.
with the new stuff that's out, it's the same thing. Whereas like we can't really compete with the stuff that's already out. So it just feels a little lackluster at the end of the day.
So do you think maybe that's why I'm frustrated? It's not that the design of the cards is bad. It's more that the design of previous cards was so good that I haven't really been able to find another archetype that I enjoy because the other ones were just it's like they're a victim of their own success almost.
That's actually
Yeah,
go on first.
go ahead.
I was
Well,
saying
it's one of those things where like
You both said
fuck
go
you.
ahead.
It's one of those things where you just it's like if they make something better and just power creep, then everything it just makes things older things even worse. Versus if they just kind of slow make these things the newer stuff kind of mid and just work on dialing back the decks, the Gogeta and Sins and the stuff that's already really good, then it kind of like mellows it out in the end. So it's kind of like a slow burn type to where we're getting back to normal.
so. Yes, currently we're in tax season, so that's why Fluff's not actually here currently. But Fluff was slowly leaving the game because he kind of felt that like there was so much stuff that he enjoyed in previous sets, and then we got to the newer sets. It's kind of like, oh no, this is the deck you want to play. This is the deck everyone's playing, and he got really kind of like thrown off by that because it was just like it's not fun anymore. When you get to that point where, to him, it felt like Jimmy might know the term. It's a Yu-Gi-Oh. It was during a certain Yu-Gi-Oh phase where everyone was playing like the exact same. I can't remember what the format was called, but that was the reason why.
Pyramid format. Yeah.
The current one?
No,
Like,
no.
like
I think
today.
I think Brandon was telling me something about telling me about a format at the shop today. Tell me if this sounds familiar, but it's Troop Dupe Scoop, where literally every deck is playing Card Trooper and Machine Duplication, and then if they get that, their opponent just scoops because.
There's been a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh formats that are. I mean, there's a lot of formats that are just named after the deck. Like you have Goat format, which is because of the Goat control deck. So I can see that. I Fluff did describe the SS4 Gogeta match as like the most Yu-Gi-Oh he's ever felt playing. And after actually having some experience with modern Yu-Gi-Oh, I do kind of agree. It does kind of feel like that. Um, Something I wanted to touch on about Jay talked about these sets kind of feeling and archetypes kind of feeling stale. Uh, I would like to see sets be less self-contained. And I want to look back at like Yellow Sin. I think that is the best they've ever handled an archetype. Because they put out an archetype that was incredibly strong, and then they kept giving it support, but not support that completely broke the old stuff from the previous set.
It
Gave you
changed the way the deck
yeah
played.
That was
gave you more options.
Yeah, that was the best I think they've ever done when it comes to creating an archetype because it was over the span of 3 different sets, which I think was fantastic. And we didn't really get a new leader for them. It was just like, oh, here's the 2 yellow decks, and then there's a couple extra yellow cards that work for this. And I feel like they haven't done that since. And that was like the first time they did was it 10, 11, and 12. and we haven't seen anything like that since then. And I don't know if that was too much like work for them for foresight. They had to like kind of prep that overall like deck so that way none of the cards coming out later would break even the previous cards.
It's hard to get excited and invested in a new archetype because knowing next set there will be no support for your favorite archetype.
Yeah.
Like
See you
I
next anniversary box.
like I invested into SS4 Gogeta. I know that set got everything for SS4 Gogeta right there, and we don't know what's coming out in the next set or the set after or whatever promo or whatever is going to come out, but stuff that come out for SS4 Gogeta is the stuff for SS4 Gogeta, and that's just how it's going to be for
Mhm.
the foreseeable future. We have no insight of what will come for that deck. I invested heavily in that deck, and now I'm kind of bored of it because I'm not going to get to see that deck evolve. Same with
Mhm.
current Gohan. I have enjoyed this 3 Han deck more than any deck in this game since Invoker. I am absolutely in love with the way the deck plays. And of course, it is generic blue, and I can fit just any 3 or less blue card into the deck, but we are probably not going to see cards for that archetype printed.
For a
Uh,
while, at least. We'll probably get a Z leader for it at one point.
yeah, we'll definitely get something that can be played in the deck, but we're not going to see that big evolution from each set, and it's really hard to get invested into a new archetype knowing that that archetype is just going to be what it is. Like it is hard to invest in something like Spirit Bomb or Cumber because next set we're probably not going to get any support, and there's probably going to be cards that actively play against those decks as well. Um, I think that's one of the big problems with the sets feeling stale and the archetypes feeling stale is because they're just kind of once you get them, you just that's it.
Well, even down the road, like say we like 3 or 4 sets down the road, like sticking with Cumber for instance. Say they make another Cumber archetype, like even still, like there's a lot of times when they do things like that, the cards themselves don't mesh with the other things. Like I think the biggest case in point is probably Blue Bardock's crew. Like the way they word those cards make it so awkward to play and almost
Yes, dude.
unplayable unless you're playing the Blue Bardock leader from Clash of Fates. So they'll just make it so like none of the stuff that they make, like they almost contradict themselves with that, where they don't want things to be too overly busted and powerful, but in the end they just shoot themselves in the foot because nobody wants to play it.
Yeah, they're afraid of letting cards be good sometimes, and then some cards they let be way too good.
Like to use a Yu-Gi-Oh example here, the set Darkwing Blast has I don't remember the full name of the card, but the card is just known as Fenrir. The card is incredible. It's amazing. It's for an archetype that's not even out. It doesn't come out until I think the next set, and
What?
there is so much hype built around this card because it's so good, and people are hounding for this card because they know how good the archetype is going to be, and it's building so much hype for this next set, and it's to the point where I don't have any interest in playing the card, but I'm hyped to see it, and I have no interest in that at all. Like I would love to, they kind of did it with this last set with releasing the Evil Saiyan Secret Rare, and that gave us like a little bit of a hint of what the Cumber archetype was going to be, but it doesn't have that. It doesn't have that same feel as just this one Fenrir thing. And I think there's some more of the archetype that is in the Darkwing Blast set, but like Fenrir is the hype for
That's the chase.
that's the chase card. Uh, like I would like to see maybe they drop a random launch card in a set that is going to hype up the next set and is going to get me excited. It's like I'm going to buy this set because I want to get this launch card because I want to play the launch archetype when it comes out. Which could be a cop out and just be a like bait to buy the next set, but like anything to get the community hype over a new product is
Which
a great thing.
which is funny. We hark about the Shadow Dragons. They did that already with with the secret rares, like in set 8,
Yeah,
they did the Shadow Dragon Balls. And set 9,
Yeah.
they did Black Smoke secret rare. And then set 10, we got the Shadow Dragon. Like, they've already done it. They showed and proved they can do it well. They just need to do it again.
Yes, dude.
More of it.
That thing you did yesterday, just do that again.
Yeah. I remember when they announced the Dragon Ball Secret Rare. Me and Aaron were speculating on what that archetype was going to be because we knew it was coming. And that was really fun, just theory crafting an archetype around that specific card. And of course, the archetype had nothing to fucking do with that card.
No.
But it was really dope and got us excited for that. And I haven't been excited for a new set in like a minute. And of course, we haven't seen everything from the new set. We don't know what's going to be in the next set too. But it's just like it's hard to be excited anymore.
And
Well, and now that we think about it too, they're kind of hinted a little bit with Cumber, because last set we got Evil Saiyan secret rare. This we're getting Prison Planet with Cumber, so maybe they're trying to do it again with Black. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed and hope for that, because yeah, that stuff is fun.
before kind of ending this off, dash packs. If you don't got your stuff, dash packs, you can buy them very cheap. We got TCG player. Just want to let people know about that. That penny Bojack jumped back up to $1 though. It was a penny.
Wow.
It was a penny the
Yeah.
other day. Now it's $1.
Yeah, I think I ordered everything I wanted from the dash packs and paid like $54. That's
Yeah.
all copies, all colors.
I think that's it. So with that being said, thank you all for tuning in. Keep in mind all the stuff down below. Click them. Put stuff in the comments what you think about. If you think they should start doing things like they did with Yellow Sin, put in the comments. And yeah, bye.